I promise you.
Family time
I got a massage, everything ready. I was getting ready to be gone.
Guy just
Change.
New attitude.
Change.
Mike, what's this last couple weeks been like to navigate this whole process?
Definitely new for me. Just, you've been traded before and you kind of expect, what's to come with that. But when I initially got traded, you just assume it's over, your time in Minnesota's done, and you're preparing your family for whatever's next. You don't know if you're going to end up in Chicago or Charlotte or whatever your next step is. And just kind of just riding the wave a little bit, like not really having direction. All that was new, in a sense. So just happy that somehow this all worked out. Didn't have to move the family. I think the best case scenario for all of us was to be here and finish out the year with what we started, and don't have to uproot anybody and keep everybody happy.
At what point did it kind of start to become clear that maybe there was this opportunity to come back? Was it pretty quickly after, or did it take a little while to figure out?
I think it took a little bit after the initial trade, because I didn't know what Chicago was going to do, because teams have their own agendas, and they might keep you, they might trade you, whatever, they're going to buy you out. So I was just kind of, like I said, just waiting to see. And then once, I kind of got wind that they were looking to trade me again, I was like, oh, this is where I started reading all the stuff about, like, hey, you could end up back in Minnesota. I was like, can I? I'm like, all right. Because that would be ideal, just to not have to do anything and just take a break and come back. So that was like the first little wind of it was probably like that next day after the first trade.
What were the initial emotions like, Mike, when you find out you are being traded?
It's always something that you think you're ready for. You're expecting something, or whether you're not expecting it, you're trying to prepare your mind for it. But when it happens, you're shocked. I was sitting there in Toronto with my wife. She was there to come watch me play. She's watched me play like in every city. And Toronto was one that she hadn't watched me play in, so it was a big day for her to come there, and so we were all excited about that. And then she's like, "You need to check your phone." I'm like, "What happened?" And boom, you're traded, and you just sit there and we just like stared at each other, like talked about, like, all right, so you got friends in Chicago, I got family. Like you start thinking of all the positives and how you're gonna navigate it, and kind of go from there. So it was I was thankful to have her with me, and having people around, all the team and guys came around and just kind of walk, help you through it, and you're not alone during the process. So it was weird, but it was the best case scenario, I think.
Did you weigh it all signing somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, it was all on the table at that time. Initially, I mean, I've known a lot of people throughout the year, so once I was traded, I got like 20 texts from guys on different teams, like, hey, what you got going? I'm like, I don't know anything yet. I honestly don't know. So yeah, you started thinking, your mind starts racing a little bit. I got to find a place. Where am I gonna? Who has room? Who's gonna be willing to want to take you or whatever? So all those things and questions kind of come into play.
Mike, you're coming back to a team now with Io here. Like, what is your idea of what the role is for you now going forward? I don't expect to be out there, running out there playing a ton of minutes. Like, I don't expect to be out there 20 minutes or anything like that. I expect the Io, Bones, and all these guys who've earned their time and minutes on the court, and to get their opportunities and do what they do. So, I'm gonna be ready and be prepared, just kind of for whatever role that is, whether it's in the rotation or spotty or whatever it is. So. Like I said, I'm just thankful to be back around these guys. It was more, you don't realize how much you miss the guys till you're not around them for a few days, and so it's really just playing it, game by game, week by week. When we get to the playoffs, hopefully, there'll be matchups that dictate, different types of minutes and where you play more or less. So, I'll be ready.
Did you ever leave the team group chats, or did you just stay in them, leave, come back? How was that process?
I stayed in the players group chat. I didn't get to that one. I got out of like the team one where they were like pumping out the schedule every day, and I was like, I don't want to see all that, like what time shoot around is, and all that. I was kind of salty, so I got out of that one. Then 3 or 4 days later, I texted Nate, who runs it. I was like, I could be back, so you might want to give me about a week. You might want to throw me back in there. So,
Mike, after you get traded, Dante, Rudy, even Ant kind of come out talking about publicly of just how much you meant to them. Ant says he wanted you back. Like, how big of a draw was it that, like, the guys really did seem to want you back in that locker room?
Yeah, man, it's kind of one of those things where they don't necessarily have to tell you that. They don't tell you that, when you're around them every day. But as soon as somebody leaves, or you're not going to see them again, they need to start being real about the situation and their feelings towards you as a player, as a person. Like, the overwhelming text messages and phone calls, and like you said, people talking in the media and stuff like that was it was kind of got me through a lot of it. Where you're like, hey, this is pretty cool that all these guys feel this way, and like I said, they don't tell you that up front all the time, but that you have an impact on them in a way that not a lot of people know, and it just shows a lot about how tight we are and kind of the family atmosphere we have. So that was a big reason why, like I said, to come back here was the ideal situation, and thankfully it was able to happen.
Why haven't you earned minutes? You talked about Bones and Ayo earning minutes. Why, in your mind, haven't you earned 20 minutes a night?
I'm getting older, man. That's one thing, but I just really think that it's their opportunity more than it is mine. You know what I mean? Like, it's their, they're at the stage of life where they're right before their prime or in their prime, and they should be getting these runs, and they should be getting these big minutes and big moments, and learning on these big games and big situations. And I've done all that, and I can be like the stopgap here and there, or pinch hitter when you need me, or whatever you need. But I'm prepared for that. I'm prepared for that role. I'm prepared for whatever that brings. But then if somebody gets hurt or something happens, like, I'll play 20 minutes. I'll play 30, whatever you need me to do. So like I said, Bones has been working. He works out all the time and works on his game. I just got to know Ayo a little bit today and played against him for a long time, and I know what kind of player he is. And Dante's continuing to grow his game. Like, everybody's getting opportunities. TJ's gonna come back. We're kind of all rounding into a healthy shape. So, like I said, just happy to be here and help the guys as much as I can.
You've been with you for a while. How, obviously, the family and everything impacted wanting to come back. But how incomplete would it have felt, I guess, to not have seen this run through with this team?
Yeah, it'd have been really unfulfilling not to be able to be a part of whatever happens here, whether we win, lose, or not. You were a part of why this thing changed. Just being a part of the training camps, the preseasons, the off seasons, the good, the bad, the tough losses, the playoff series where we lay an egg and have to come back and figure out the next year. Like, all that stuff is built up in that sweat equity that you have together, and it just would be really awkward for me to go somewhere else and have to leave that behind. Like, I kind of go all in wherever I'm at. So so this is a place you just want to see it through, and see us try to get to that top.
Mike, you mentioned you talked to other teams that might have gotten close, perhaps with some other teams, but when you realized that you and Charlotte weren't going to be a match, how soon did maybe Tim pick up the phone? How quickly did those conversations start with you and Tim and possibly coming back?
Fairly quickly. Once that was kind of on the table with Charlotte, and that they were looking to buy me out or waive me and give me an opportunity to be a free agent. It was Tim's like, hey, if you want to be here, we'd love to have you back. I think it's a great scenario for you. And obviously he didn't have to sell me on much. I heard they have good people here. I heard it's a good city, all that stuff. So I was sold, and told him I'd love to, and make it happen. And obviously there were some things where I had to wait until be official and stuff like that. So just was hoping that it all worked out in the end.
How was the 2-week All-Star break?
The 2-week All-Star break was great. The first 2 days of it wasn't so great. It was a lot of I call it stress, but it's it's a little crazy. But after that, once I heard that I'd be bought out and be afraid, I was like, man,
I don't have to come to work. Like, I don't have to do anything. Like, stay at home dad for a few days. Got out to All-Star break a little early and got to enjoy some time with the family. So just been, enjoying it.
I saw you back there with the headband. Is that the new accessory, new apparel?
Yeah,
for your
why
new start
not?
here?
Why not? I might as well. Maybe something's got to change. Maybe that's the thing.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.